All right. We are here with Tracey Levine. She is the Executive Director of Healing Housing. Is that correct? Executive Director?
That is correct.
Yeah. Could you tell us just a little bit about yourself before we get into Healing Housing, Miss Tracey?
I'd love to. I'd love to. So I have four grown children. I have one grandchild. I have a degree in psychology, but spent the better part of my years raising kids.
Mhm.
And I have been in recovery from alcohol abuse and substance abuse addiction for going on 22 years this
Oh,
October.
wow.
And so I've spent a lot of time in recovery circles helping people, and loved that. And kind of as I evolved out of raising a family, really knew that I wanted to go back into that as a profession.
Mm.
So I got my certified peer recovery specialist designation, and started doing intervention training, did interventions for a couple of years, and recovery coaching for a local company here, and then made my way to healing housing, which was a true blessing for me, because that's where I've really found my heart and my purpose and where I love working. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit about Healing Housing, maybe how it got started and how Brentwood is involved?
I'd love to. So Olivia Mullen Smith, who is a congregant of Brentwood United Methodist Church, she was doing ministry called Better Decisions. And it's this wonderful ministry that you are given an inmate to work with. They pair you, and you go through an 8-week series of really learning to make better decisions, so that when you are released, that life will look different from you. Olivia had this wonderful relationship with this young woman who was getting close to parole, and was expressing concern to Olivia that when she left prison, that the only choice she had in terms of housing was going back to her family of origin, where addiction was still really prevalent, and she was really afraid of going back to that. So that weighed heavy on Olivia's heart, as it should and would, and she brought that to Davis Chapel at the church, and he said, "Go find a team of people, research, do what you can find out, and we can see how we can help." So really, that's how it happened. Of course, you can imagine a team of volunteers that are still to this day very much committed and a part of Healing Housing. It took them a couple of years of getting the nonprofit status,
Right.
traveling to other sober living communities, deciding what exactly they wanted to do. And so a lot of that work was put in starting in 2015, and in 2017 of April, the doors were opened. 2 houses were found in Franklin, and to this day, that's where we reside, and we are able to house 12 women that are in the program and 3 staff members.
That's
So
awesome. What kind of what kind of services do you offer these women who come into Healing Housing?
the program structure that we've evolved into, which I feel is really what I love doing and what I've seen really work, is very strict, and their days are very full. And what we provide and what we have identified as problems with relapse are access to therapy, which we now pay for and make sure that every woman receives weekly therapy to address trauma.
Yep.
100% of our have, as you can imagine, sexual molestation. They have a lot of trauma, childhood trauma. So we make sure all that gets addressed, because most of them have never had therapy. So they have to meet with a therapist once a week. They are connected with a 12-step sponsor that they have to meet with once a week. They have to attend 5 12-step meetings per week. They have to attend relapse prevention, which we provide. That's a weekly class. We provide spiritual formation, which Pat Rawls, a member of BUMC,
Right.
as well as the team of other volunteers, provides that. Judith Bone, Betsy Christie, that's provided to the women on Sunday nights.
That's
We call
awesome.
them soul talks. They're amazing.
Is that every Sunday night?
every Sunday night. We've
Okay.
done that since the beginning. So that's every Sunday night for an hour. And that's been a beautiful evolution. And again, assisting women in the birth, as I call it, being sort of this midwife to this birth of a spiritual connection and transformation, because we know we can't push that. So it's done very beautifully.
Mm.
They have morning meditation every morning at 5:30, and that also we have folks that bring that in. You might like to do that some morning. It's a wonderful experience. They spend a half hour with us in morning meditation. So we do those either in-house or we're Zooming people in to do that. They do a nightly wrap up every night. And then in addition to all of that, we provide care management. So one-on-one meetings weekly to see how they're at with living, if they're having any struggles, if we can identify any problems that they might be having. And right now there's 3 of us all going for our licensed alcohol and drug addiction credentials.
Uh-huh.
And so we're overseen by a clinical supervisor who helps us with, again, identifying specific problems that we're noticing with women and living with us. So,
Are the women, do they work jobs outside of healing housing, or are they just there all day, or?
So another kind of problem that we identified as we've been in business for 3 years was that the women that we serve are really different than, maybe a family with financial means, who
Right.
might be able to afford, or with insurance, a 90-day stay at a residential rehab facility. Our women, if they're lucky, get 14 to 28 days in a residential rehab facility. And then they come to us, and many of these women are coming off of 7 years of meth use, daily users for years.
Right.
So they come to us after this tiny bit of treatment time. And I really saw this as a problem, as a void. So we reached out to Educare, who's another nonprofit within Williamson County, who provides intensive outpatient treatment. And so the minute the women come to us, we get them assessed by Educare, and we get them enrolled in sort of this bridge of care for 4 to 6 weeks. During that time, they can find a job that is limited to 20 hours a week, or we will hold them. We want them to put recovery first above all else, because we know that getting a job can be very addictive too, and and it kind of takes us out of this discomfort that we're in. So we really support them during the non-working time to really throw themselves into recovery.
Right.
I never mind if they choose to stay with us and work through that fresh in recovery. Once they've finished Educare or any IOP services for 4 to 6 weeks, then they are required to get a full-time job. 32 hours a week is the minimum, and they start paying in program fees to Healing Housing.
Okay.
And that fee structure, just so you're aware, I think it's amazing. I know we're the only program that I know of that does this, certainly in Tennessee. They pay $125 a week to live with us. $50 of that is their rent. And then $75 of that is held in a savings account in their name. And upon successful graduation of our 6-month program, or they can stay longer, that money is given back to them to help them set up for down payment on an apartment for next step housing.
Wow. That's awesome. That's incredible. You guys come to the church and you do presentations a lot. And I know Pat really well, and have served on a leadership team with her for the last few years. And so I hear all about healing housing a lot, I feel like, but I don't know, just to hear that kind of like the details of it is really incredible. That's awesome, because I hear big picture things like, oh, it's going well, and we've got this many women in here, but I didn't know like the depth of detail of what you guys do. So that's really incredible.
I feel like to be in this business, I'm constantly assessing outcomes. And, we know statistically we're working against a lot.
Right.
Relapse is unfortunately very much a part of all of these women's stories. So every angle that we've identified that we can assist in a programmatic structural way, we do. And then I always say the real secret sauce is the in between. And that is the loving, caring ability of volunteers and staff that we have that helps them fill in all the voids. And that is processing, going to see their children who they have limited visitation with through
Mm-hmm.
foster care system. It is sad. It is hard. To me, it's us being there to help pick up those pieces and process that as a community is what makes all the difference. If they go back to their room and isolate after something like that, we're losing, you
Mm.
know. So we're there. We're there to help process feelings.
If I can go back to your story just a little bit, you talk about you're in recovery as well. What made you decide to go into recovery work as a career? And has that been a challenge?
No, it's just like we say in 12-step recovery, and I just talked about this the other day, at the end of the 12 steps, what we're asked to do, is, and what happens after we've completed the 12 steps of AA recovery is a spiritual transformation that leads to service work.
Mm.
And for me, that spiritual transformation was, wow, this was never about me. This is about serving others. And in that regard, I think the church is the perfect home for us. I always say this 12-step recovery, all meetings are held within a church. 9 out of 10 times you
Right.
go to find your AA meetings at church. There's no better place for us to be housed. And, seeing folks who don't have addiction as a part of their story, but live a life of service, like a Pat Rawls, like a Betsy, like yourself, they are exactly doing what we want, which is attraction rather than promotion.
Mm.
There is no way I could have come through this experience and, for me, selfishly kept that.
Mm.
That is something that needs to be shared. And the power of it, because I see it in the rooms, is me saying, I did it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Not only did I did it, but my family is intact. I have a beautiful relationship with others. And that vulnerability and that brokenness is what I feel like brings us together.
That's incredible. Um, I guess my next question would be, and you've touched on this a little bit. What's the best part about working there?
Um, I will try not to cry. I think graduations, seeing a woman come through, and I'll give an example because this one is really fresh for me, and there's been so many. We had a woman who came to us through 21st Recovery Drug Court, another
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit right in the county, in Williamson County. And they literally called Bev, who's our director of programming, in, and myself, and sat us at the table and said, look, we have a woman that we don't know what else to do. And if she can't complete our program, she's going back to 8 years in prison. She has broken every rule. We can't seem to, she can't live in our housing. It's not working. Would you take her? And I mean, it was not a good setup. I was like, man, I mean, it just didn't seem like she had anything going for her. And I looked at Bev and I said, and we both said, God brought us this woman. Like, why is this coming to us? Why is this coming to us? But it did. And Bev said, I'm up for the challenge. Let's do it. Well, let me tell you, she just graduated. She was a mentor to new women. She was a right-hand man to me in many instances when I needed help. She suited up and showed up, and she never left with a single behavioral instance on her record.
Mm.
And all I thought was, that would have been someone that would have slipped in the system, right?
Yeah.
But what she needed was community. She needed love, and she needed that like all day long, every
Yeah.
day. She needed somebody to process that her 8-year-old isn't living with her,
Mm.
and to process the pain of her past. Anytime I can be a part of that conversation with a woman, I just I have to pinch myself.
Yeah. Um, this is for our men's group. And I think a lot of guys at the church might be thinking, okay, this is a ministry geared at women. What
Mhm.
can I do? What can I do to be a part of this, or to help, or to support healing housing?
Well, those morning meditation circles, obviously we have folks sign a confidentiality agreement, but if you'd ever like to be among, and they're all done via Zoom right now, but that's a wonderful way to be involved and to either share something from the Bible, or a story that you've read that means a lot to you, or something that helps you get through a rough day, and just share with the women. That's a beautiful way to sort of be a part of the community.
Mhm.
We also have that, God bless Bob from the church, who does all of our maintenance, grounds maintenance. I'm sure he could use a helping hand. Um, but we have 2 houses that consistently need help and
Right.
TLC. So anytime that there's some that time could be had in helping us patch up things. We're trying to fix up a room right now to kind of expand and give the women a little more breathing room in terms of bedrooms. That would be helpful. Certainly financial contributions and assistance financially. We are still fully self-supporting. We do not take government funding. Um, and so that is always really helpful. And I know you'll probably get to that later, but we are right now really focused on Recovery Month. And we've got a number of ways that folks can help us out by giving gifts that we benefit from. And that you can see all on our website. But
Right. What would a perfect partner in ministry look like to you?
well, um, could you be a little more specific? Maybe I'm not.
Like, if one of these, if somebody in our group or in the church wanted to partner with healing housing, what would you want from them, and what would be the most helpful to you?
Well, I think obviously service work is really helpful, be it on a committee, be it giving of your time, be your expertise. We're always looking to network, and you know, honestly, the biggest thing that sort of hangs over my head right now is knowing that we need more housing,
Mm.
and knowing, like Bev said, the worst part of her job is turning away someone that needs
Mm.
housing and that we don't have a bed for.
Yeah.
So as I finally now feel like programmatically we have one of the best programs that I feel exists, now I want to look future and see how we expand on that, and how we as a church, as an organization, can can build and grow with intention, knowing that we're providing a service that really needs to be there.
Yeah. Well, my last question for you before we go, what's coming up? What's coming down the pipe for healing housing? What do you guys have coming up in the next few weeks or months that we can be involved in and help you out with?
Well, the big one right now is, like I mentioned, September is National Recovery Month. So we are doing a big push. We have dinner to go collaborations. So if you want to surprise your wife or your grandmother, or a special frontline worker with a dinner, you'll see lots of those kind of collaborations on our website. One of them is September 20th, where they can pick up a meal at we'll have a truck at the Bumpsy parking lot where folks can pick up a meal and bring dinner to go home. And then also, educationally speaking, we are doing a panel and film screening. The film screening is of a movie called Heroin on September 21. And then on September 22, we are doing our first panel, where I will be facilitating with a number of other organizations in the area addressing addiction in Williamson County.
Okay.
So if you're not on our newsletter, if you're not signed up, please go to healinghousing.org and be a part of our newsletter to learn what we're doing. I'm also focusing a lot more on education outreach as we move through the year,
Yep.
so that we can become more of a resource in the community for folks struggling with addiction as a family member or a loved one. And then our next biggie, which I'm sure as being part of the church you're aware of, but we're really excited about our Love Breakfast that will be in 2021. We're doing a special workshop with Dr. Amy Hodges Hamilton, who is part of the church and a professor at Belmont, who is leading our women through a workshop called Healing Trauma Through Writing.
Oh, wow.
And it has become a favorite at our at Healing Housing. We do that every Tuesday night, and the women will be writing their stories that will, we hope, someday be published as a book for folks to learn and read.
That's
Really.
awesome. Well, Miss Tracey, you guys are doing awesome work. I'm so thankful that you were able to speak with us this morning. And yeah, any last parting words?
No, thank you always for just listening. And if you could spread about Healing Housing and what we're doing, if you ever want a tour of our building, obviously when we're out of COVID, please give me a call, go to our website. We'd love for you to see our facility. If you ever need to hold a meeting, just come be there and spread the good word. That would be great.
Thank you so much, Miss Tracey. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.